Hi, this video is going to show you some of the basics of using Equatio to add math to your documents. It can be with Google Docs, slides, sheets. You can put them in forms if you want to do a quiz or some other type of assessment with your students. The first thing you want to make sure is that you have this little Equatio diamond up in your extensions bar. If you don't, you can come to Chrome Web Store, search for Equatio, and right over here on the right, instead of a Rate It button, you'll have an Add to Chrome button, like what's down here. Click Add to Chrome and follow the prompts, and that will put your Equatio diamond up in your bar. Once you have Equatio, to have the toolbar that I have here at the bottom show up, you're going to come up to where the extensions are and you click the diamond. That will open your toolbar. You can see that here on the screen, I have a couple different examples so that you can see that we have quite a variety of what you can do, starting with elementary with fraction bars and circles. There's also a way to add money, to put coins in if you're working on money with your students. You can do fractions, graphs. It's relatively easy to do some algebra. You can also go all the way up to calculus. And I find it more intuitive and efficient than Equation Editor. I used Equation Editor for quite a few years, but I think this works a little bit more efficiently. So as an example, let's start with just how we would type in math, which I think is how most of us would prefer to do it. So you come over to the left. You can't see mine, unfortunately, because of the screen sharing software, but it's this little sigma sign. You're going to click that. You can see I already had some math that I had done earlier. So if you have something in there, just delete it out. And if I want to do something simple, I just type it. And it will automatically put it in the kind of italicized math form that we're used to seeing in Word when we use Equation Editor. You can also do fractions. And the way I just typed that was 1/2. I click the right arrow to get out of the bottom of my fraction. 3/5, right arrow, and then equals, which is pretty efficient. If I want to do a square, I can do y equals x. I start to write square, SQU. It immediately comes up for me. And now I have my square. If I want to add pretty much anything, if I just start to type it, it will come out. But I can also come over here on the right, and it will give me an option to click it and then type it. So for instance, over here, you can see I could click this and get a matrix or the quadratic equation or any of these other options. But I can also put A equals start writing matrix, and it will automatically give me a bunch of different matrix options that I can then fill in. After that option, you have LaTeX. So if you've used LaTeX coding to write math before, you can do that. I don't know if many of us are doing that, so I'm going to skip it for now. You can add a graph. It is through Desmos, so this should look really familiar to you and your students. And I already have one in here. Come over and click Insert Graph. Notice that it puts it in pretty big. I like to, first I always put everything to wrap text because they are images and it makes it easier to move them around and edit them. But with the graphs, I tend to like to come in and zoom them in. You can also do this in Desmos first by setting your range and everything, but I like to just crop it real quick. And then you can move it around. If you want to, you can change the size again. Even after cropping, you can make it pretty big and it will stay clear. It's pretty good picture quality. If you want to add images like these fraction bars and circles, or also there are some physical science and physics images that you could use to make diagrams, and some pictures that you could use for word problems maybe, if you're showing students how to draw out problem solving techniques. You can come over here to shapes, and you have quite a few different options. And this is in the math space. I'm sorry, I clicked on the math space button without saying that that's where I was going. So this is a big menu that you can go through, and it has a lot of different options. It has things for working with electricity, things for working with simple machines, geometry, trig, working with coins for the younger kids, fraction bars and circles for the younger kids. So it has a lot of options. You can also come over to Smart Shapes. So if I come over here and I click fraction circle, I click and drag to make my fraction circle. I can change the color with this menu up here. If I click on the circle, I can change my number of segments, and I can also change the number of shaded segments. Once I'm done and have it the way I want it, I click this blue button up here. You're gonna think you have to click Insert Math, but it doesn't work in MathSpace. Instead, you insert using the blue button at the top. It will then bring you back to your document. And just like everything else, if you click Wrap Text, it makes it easier to move around. You can resize it, and it's pretty simple. This right here is the MathSpace icon that I clicked on before that I didn't point out before I clicked on it. Students also have the option, and so do you, for speech input. It doesn't work as well with the higher level math, but if you have a student with some dexterity issues, you can go up to probably algebra and add input, because you can do fractions, you can do squares, you can do square roots, but it just, if you're doing calculus or even maybe some trig, you might have some issues getting it to come out effectively. If you have a touch screen or one of your students does, you can handwrite your math in, and you handwrite over here, and on the right it will show up. You can also use the screenshot reader. So that lets you highlight some math.
1/2 plus 3/5 equals.
And then it will read it out loud to you. So that's great for students that might have low vision, or might do better if they both read and hear things out loud, if they have some kind of language processing disorder. So that's Equatio. Those are the basics. There's going to be another video from the student side, so you can see how they would edit a PDF using a mixture of Equatio and PDF Reader.